that white flag waving, this is to the bitter end. 'Cause this is what I live for. I never quit, no, no, this is what I live for. I take another swing, so I never miss, no, no, this is what I live for. It's time to kiss the ring, oh, I'm trying to get gold. 'Cause this is what I live for. This is what I live for. I never quit, no, no, this is what I live for. I don't wanna see that white flag waving, this is to the bitter end. 'Cause this is what I live for. I never quit, no, no, this is what I live for. I take another swing, so I never miss, no, no, this is what I live for. It's time to kiss the ring, oh, I'm trying to get gold. 'Cause this is what I live for. This is what I live for. I never quit, no, no, this is what I live for. 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 This is
Hello, everybody. I am so excited today because my guest today, she is such a special treat. She's an amazing and powerful woman. She's a best-selling author and speaker. She wrote multiple books, and I'm so excited because there's a new book that just came out, Awakening, and I'll let her talk about it a little bit later. But there is also, it's like she is, in my opinion, she's like a mind strategist, She's the person who can help us figure certain things out. And what is more exciting for me is she is, in my opinion, the person who can help women to realize that true potential that we all have, but not necessarily stepping into it right away. So that's kind of like so close to my mission, and I'm so excited to bring this amazing and powerful woman to you guys today. So please help me welcome Dr. Shefali.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, this is the new book. It's called A Radical Awakening, Turn Pain to Power, Embrace Your Truth, and Live Free. And people can just go to aradicalawakening.com. And it's all about, yes, your mission about helping women resurrect themselves from the debris of their childhood pain and cultural indoctrination to really rise into their most fulfilled self. Yeah, it's very difficult for young mothers, especially when you have a young child, to quote unquote balance it all. But I always help my clients to understand that, don't run after things simply because you believe they will make you feel better. Because feeling better is never obtained from the outside. It is an internal job. So first, the real birthplace of true passion, purpose, meaning, and manifestation is your own inner sense of connection, your own inner sense of worth. And if your inner sense of worth is misplaced, then 10 children are not going to be enough, and 10 careers are not going to be enough, and 10 ladders to the top are not going to be enough. So it all comes back to intention. Are we pursuing whatever we're pursuing because it's in alignment with the deepest part of our being? Is it really connected to our truest sense of self, right? And that's what we want to chase. We don't want to chase doing it all if it's just going to mean empty rainbows at the end of the day. We want to chase alignment, right? That's what we're seeking. We're seeking greater alignment. And that's why you and I both don't love the word balance. We don't love the phrase, you can do it all, if it's empty of inner alignment. So the first place to start, whether you're a mother or not, is this moment in my life right now coming from emerging or manifesting out of an inauthentic, false inner emptiness, or is it emerging out of a true connection with myself? And this is the essential question of all of life. Am I falling into alignment with my authentic self, or is this just another run around the rainbow, right? I'm just chasing something manically, which is what we have been conditioned as women to do. We've been conditioned to run after our fathers, to run after the skinny body, to run after the image in the magazine, to run after motherhood, and then to run after the husband, or the lover, the relationship. And we lose ourselves in the chasing of these external validations. So the real epic revolution is to really enter the deep connection with ourselves. And having children, that's what I write about. I write about conscious parenting. Conscious parenting is allowing the parenting journey to repivot you back into your own evolution.
I love it. I love it so much because, you said something very, very powerful, because all different media and commercials and the society in general pushes on us a lot of different things, what we should be, what we should like, what we should look, and what we should do, and all of those things. And we are conditioned to kind of like being in that hamstring wheel and just constantly running and running and running. It's like, oh, new phone. There's a new phone came out this year. I need to get that new phone. Why are you buying a new phone? I have no idea. And I'm guilty of that too. I bought into that nonsense, and every year I would buy a new phone. And then I was like, that new phone is not better than the old one. It's just not that big of a difference. So kind of like last year, I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not running like crazy like everybody. I'm not purposely buying the new phone. And you know what? And it's actually kind of like fun to be rebellious for a minute and just like, I'm going to buy it when I'm ready for it, when I need it. And I think a lot of people, and this is just one small example with the phone, but there are so many different things that are kind of like pushed on us from this society. What is okay, what is not okay, how we should look, how we should talk, what we should do, what we should, be part of, and all of that stuff. And in the whole agony of chasing something else, we forget the most important part, who we truly are, what makes us happy. I love the kind of like that wording of like, what makes your heart sing? Mm-hmm. What makes your heart sing every morning when you wake up or every time you go to bed? If some of that crazy kind of like stuff makes your heart sing, then that's what your passion is. And maybe you need to pursue those different things and ideas and ideals. But if it doesn't, then don't. Find a way that will make you fulfilled. Find a way that will make you centered and make you excited. And because like you said, once you find yourself centered, it feels like the whole universe opens up with a lot of different opportunities and ideas and concepts and feelings and things that you didn't notice before, right?
Yes, but it does take that act of great rebellion against what culture has told women, because this new wave of feminism puts so much pressure on women now to do it all. Be the best mother, be the skinniest body, go out there and be a CEO, go and, do the fundraiser and the charity. And the women can't do it all when it comes from this place of just piling it onto the plate. So the greatest act of rebellion is to not actually fall into that new trap of the new feminist trap of I can do it all just for the sake of doing it all. Right? Then you're actually playing into the patriarchy just on the other end. The old patriarchy told women you can't do anything. Now, the new wave of feminism is saying you can do everything, but by becoming a slave to it, we actually become a slave to the patriarchy yet again, just on the other end of the spectrum. So the real act of rebellion in the old patriarchy, the new feminism, is to truly say to oneself and declare to culture that I will only be my most authentic self. That is the act of the greatest rebellion, whether that means planting berries in my backyard, whether it means working in a departmental store, or whether it's changing my child's diapers, or doing nothing for a moment or 5. It's about tapping in. Now, not everyone has the privilege to do that. And of course, sometimes we do have to go to work, of course. But again, not falling prey to labeling or judging the kind of work you do. There's so much judgment on women to, look gorgeous, to be that size 0 body, to manage everything perfectly, to cook the home cooked brownies. We can't put this pressure on ourselves to be the perfect person. And it's this personification of perfection, this desire to be perfect, that is the greatest mental disease, I think, in women today. And today with technology and with the cosmetic industry, there's no end. Like you said, we can keep buying phones, we can keep Botoxing, keep filling this, and we objectify ourselves. We do exactly what we complain the patriarchy does. We do it to ourselves. Like you said, we are the greatest self-abusers. And we objectify ourselves. How many of us look in the mirror and we look behind the earlobe, which no one looks at? And we go, do you see? Do you see the skin behind the earlobe? And no one notices. Or we look at our ankles. We take ourselves apart under the microscope. Then we're angry that the culture does it. But who is the greatest consumer of the cosmetic industry and the surgery industry and the magazines? It's us. So we have to own who's buying the push-up bra, who's putting the butt implant. No one is forcing us to go there. We're doing it. We're buying into this, and we are constraining and enslaving ourselves. So the greatest act of rebellion is to own our own co-creation. And that's really what I talk about in this book, A Radical Awakening. The radical awakening is to own your own co-creation in your own enslavement in the patriarchy. The patriarchy exists, but how do we play into it and bow down before it? Like you said, no one tells us to buy that iPhone. No one told us to go buy iPhone number 16.2. We go do that, right? And then we're upset with ourselves that we don't have that filter, or we don't have the best angle in the camera, because we've bought into this. And we women need to rebel and say no more, and end the consumerism of women and end the objectification of women. But we have to end it within ourselves first.
Right. And you are like absolutely right. I'm kind of like sitting and smiling, because even though it's such a serious topic, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you and I think alike so much. It's just like crazy. But, you mentioned something very important, like the self-abuse, right? We talked about a lot that there is a lot of different abuses in the world. There is a physical abuse, there is a verbal abuse, and neither one of those is acceptable or should be ever happening. But in my opinion, there is another version of abuse that we actually doing to ourselves, which is a self-abuse. And if you guys are kind of like who are watching right now, type in the comments below and say, and if you recognize that you're abusing yourself, just say, I'm the same, or I'm abusing myself, or what is your form of abuse? Because here's the thing. we, like you said, we are the ones putting those butt implants, right? We are the ones who are saying like, oh, I have those wrinkles, I need to put Botox, so I need to do this, so I need to do that. Nobody forces us into it because we find a way, instead of loving ourselves for who we are, exactly with our wrinkles and with all of our fat cells and all that stuff. And it's so funny because I just finished a conversation with my doctor and I was talking about how I'm frustrated with my fat cells and all that stuff, right? So just express all my frustration to her. But at the same time, I'm recognizing I need to love myself for who I am, the way I look, and the rest does not matter. But we are like that self-abuse conversation that happens with women, especially as women, because like, I mean, it's like, how often do you see the guy who looks himself in the mirror is like, oh, I'm so fat, I need to get on a treadmill. I was like, very rarely. But women, we're so often doing that stuff to ourselves. So we need to kind of like realize that we need to be kinder to ourselves. So how do you think women can be kinder? How, when you say that your self-realization and coming to your own core, it's like, how would you do that? How would you help a woman to kind of like break that long-term pattern of self-abuse? And how would you put her on the journey of discovering and loving her for who she is?
Yeah, it's the biggest journey one can take in one's life. You know, it's the journey of your life. It's the odyssey of your soul's awakening. It's the point of being here. So the first step is the desire. You know, does the person have the desire to pivot themselves in a new way? And typically, if they've had enough shit in their lives, hopefully they've fallen apart enough and they've been in enough abusive relationships that they hit rock bottom. You know, as a therapist, I love rock bottom moments in my clients, not because I want them to be in pain, but because I know, now the ego is going to break. Now the pattern will break because it can't sustain itself. But till the person comes to that point of saying, you know what, I am now unsustainable. This cannot continue. Till that moment, no one is going to change. And we see it with our food, we see it in our relationships, we see it with our relationship to money. Until we are really in pain, sadly, we humans only grow through pain for the most part. It would be so wonderful if we woke up and said, hey, I want to live healthier without any illness, right? But typically we get that impetus from either comparing ourselves with someone else or something is attacking us in our own lives. So whatever brings us there, that is the first key, is the desire, is the true upsetness. The internal conflict has to be so high that you do want to, the causes and effects are now taking you to topple over. Until there's enough momentum, typically people just spend their entire lives, you know, trying a few things, dabbling a few things, getting off the couch, but then going right back. Because humans, we always go towards homeostasis. So something to break the homeostasis, it takes a lot, momentum. And typically, sadly, it's a lot of abuse or a terminal illness or the loss of a job. Some death of some old pattern has to occur. So then you have the desire, and then you have to have the courage. Courage to do what? Courage to look in the mirror and now take accountability, right? Yes, he was abusive, she was abusive, your mother was terrible, your father was terrible, the grandfathers. Yes, culture is toxic. No question, there is racism. We should never tell a person of color or a black person, oh, can you take responsibility for the racism? No. Racism exists in a simpler way. Sexism exists. It's not the woman's fault. However, at some point, after we've acknowledged that there are evils in society called racism, called ageism, called sexism, then each person has to look in the mirror and go, okay, now how can I work within this system and break free to the best degree I can? Not negating my victimhood, but not entering victim consciousness, you know? Because people, you know, in the self-help movement sometimes fall into this pattern of victim blaming. And we want to absolutely acknowledge that women do get abused, women do get raped, women do get objectified. However, after having acknowledged it and naming it and calling it what it is, we then want to empower ourselves to make those individual changes in our own lives.
Right. Yeah,
And
this is
that's the start of the pattern. That's the start of the pattern disruption, right? We need all these ingredients to now go on a journey. And now you have to work with a coach, you have to work with a therapist, you have to go on this inward spiraling journey to break free of your patterns. Sorry. Yes.
No, 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 no. It's absolutely amazing because, like you said, there has to be, unfortunately, some tragic moment in our lives, in our businesses, in our health, or whatever it might be, in our jobs, in order for us to awaken, right, that we are doing something wrong, that we are living a destructive life, either with our physical body or with our mental body or with our emotional body and spiritual body. But why we cannot just read the book and, like you said, wake up one morning is like, hey, I just want to be a healthy person, I just want to live a better life. It's almost like the way the child learns, right? So you can tell the little child that, oh, the fire is dangerous, don't touch the fire. But until they touch it a little bit and until they burn their hands a little bit, they will not listen to all these words. And I feel like we all learn through the mistakes. We have to kind of like fall on our knees at some point to learn that it hurts, that this is, that every action has consequences. And until those consequences are painful, we are not willing to rethink our actions or do something different with our life. So it's just such an interesting way how humans think, because, even though we're all petrified of change, right? It's probably one of the scariest things for a lot of people, the unknown, what is going after that change. But it's so important and it's so necessary because that's the way we grow. Even with this whole pandemic right now, it's a very unfortunate situation for our world in general, for the health and well-being of a lot of people. And a lot of people lost their jobs and lives to this disease. But until that, nobody was worried about their immune system. This is crazy. Why such a disaster has to happen for us to realize, oh, we need to pay attention what we're putting in our body. Oh, maybe I was like, yesterday I was watching a commercial. It's like we're watching a TV with my husband, and there was a commercial that America is dunking way for America is the dunking way or something. I was like, that is so horrible. And it's like, I'm not talking bad about any company specifically, but I'm just talking about the health habits. I was like, yeah, we growing up on donuts and making that being a normal part of your nutrition. And then we worried why everybody's so obese in our country and why people don't have strong enough immune system to defend ourselves. But until something horrible happens, we're not going to start paying attention. That's like, yeah, maybe more nutritional food going to be more beneficial. So, and you being psychologists and therapists and all of those things, why do you think we need to get to the point of pain? Is there hope at some point that we will learn from our mistakes and, and be a little bit more conscious about where we're going?
Well, sad to say that maybe not, because our conditioning is so strong. And when we get conditioned in those first 7 years of life, it is very hard to break free from that conditioning. And that's really the core of why people find it so hard to change. So at the basic core, our psychological conditioning is really set to unworthiness. And that's where our pivot is. And our parents, our culture, our teachers teach the young children or teach us when we're young to look at the grades, to look at the weighing machine, to look how we fit in, to pray to the external God, to belong to this religion, to follow the traditions. So we're conditioned from a very young age to be sheep. So then when we are trained to be that way, we get divorced from our worth, our own authentic self very early on. So then once we're trained to look outside, that's it. Now the outside changes depending on your age. Now, first it was the kindergarten teacher who told you what to do. Then it was the priest. Then it was the magazines. Then it was the technology companies. Then it was the soda companies. It just keeps going because now you're prey to the external environment. and whatever the trend is on the external. And this is where the breaking point happens around the age of 7. By the age of 7, the child is fully indoctrinated to follow the cattle, the sheep. And so it doesn't matter if it was the parent in the beginning, it soon becomes culture. So it's really hard for parents to indoctrinate their children the other way, which is follow your own voice, listen to your authentic self. Parents don't like that because for them that means a lack of control. Well, if you over control your child, then don't be surprised if later on they are over controlled by abusive relationships or by the weighing machine or by the diet industry or by culture. It's that same compliance that you trained your child to have toward you that your child now has toward culture. So if you want to raise powerful daughters, especially, you have to allow them to be rebellious toward you. And parents don't want that. They're like, yeah, be rebellious outside, but be compliant in the house. So it doesn't work like that. So there's a price to pay if you want to shift the generational patterns in our females, especially in our women, especially from compliance and servility to empowerment and rebellion. That's how you give them the internal tools to fight against culture, to say no to culture.
I love it. It's such a good point, because sometimes I'm kind of like, I have, Eric and I, we have 5 kids, and we have a blended family. So I have my own daughter and my own son. And I'm kind of like, as a mother of a daughter, of course, I want the guy to be such an amazing guy who loves her and takes care of her. But as a mother of a son, at the same time, I was like, I am the mother who is raising that future boy, who will be treating that girl who is potentially my girl, right? Potentially wrong or not respectful or be dominating and not respect. I mean, it's like all of those things. I am responsible for growing that man, that boy, into a man I would like my daughter to have. So I think it's really important for us to understand, yes, as parents, of course, we want to make sure that we guide our kids in the best possible way. But like you said, not over controlling and not being afraid of them to be rebellious and not consider them being who they are something wrong and something kind of like as a disrespect to you, right?
Right. So, so retraining our own mindset to allow our children to have their voice is one of the most powerful things a parent can do, because we were raised as parents to be in control. But we don't realize that that's the same messaging from culture that silences your children. And then you have a silent woman when she grows up, So it's coming through the parent and it's coming through the culture. But the parent is the gateway, especially the mother, the woman who's the symbol for her daughter and her son, to really pass down those messages very carefully. But again, it's not what we say to our children, it's how we are. So if your daughter sees you looking so concerned about culture and so into fashion and so into the latest trends, then that daughter is going to pick up that those things are important. Right. So or if the mother is upset with herself because she eats some fries or she looks at her body and is not happy, the daughter is watching everything. So how we are in our own self-acceptance is what our children will absorb.
Right. Because people don't do what you tell them to do. They do what you do.
Right.
And especially our kids, they watch exactly our action, our steps, not what we tell that it's right or what's wrong. Like I said, if we are punishing ourselves in our own way for eating a little extra something or chasing some fancy whatever and being like very conscious about how we look and how we behave and everything else, that's exactly what they're going to pick up. And that's exactly going to set the pattern for them in the future. I know I feel like I can talk to you for ages and it's gonna be like so much fun. So guys, first of all, guys, give us some hearts, give Dr. Shefali some love because like I think she's sharing such an amazing wisdom. I'm enjoying this conversation so much. So make sure that you first of all share this video and let everybody know. But I want to switch gears for a minute before we kind of like put the bow on it. And I know you talk about, and we started a little bit on this conversation about children. So people, especially women, obviously, inside of our profession, they have what we call mom's guilt, right? Because they need to build a business and they still have to do the family duties. And especially because moms are the ones most of the time taking kids to their practices and to school and this and that and feeding them and all of those different obligations around our children. But at the same time, you need to build a business, right? Or if you want to build a business more proactively, sometimes you have to travel and sometimes you're going to miss their practices. Sometimes you're going to miss their basketball game or their school play or even birthdays. I'm guilty of that too. I miss some of the birthdays of my kids because it's just the schedule is so hectic and the pace that we live is such a fast pace. So how would you recommend the women inside of network marketing space and outside of network marketing space to not feel that mom's guilt? Is there such a way? Is there such advice that we can give them?
Well, when we entertain that guilty voice inside us, we need to be aware that it is a way that our psychology has set itself up to hold ourselves back. So the guilt is not really useful. You know, I often say guilt is narcissistic. Why do I say that? It's because you are at a networking event, for example, but you should be at the basketball game. Well, that narcissism comes from this idea that you can do it all and you can't do it all. So the minute you accept you can't do it all, you have to do some things in sequence. And sometimes things have to fall off the table. Sometimes you'll get to it later. Sometimes it has to be pushed back a couple years. Once you embrace actually the lack of narcissism of wanting to do it all, you end the guilt. You then can tell your kid, you know, I really want to be here for your birthday, but I have this networking event and that's how I earn a living and that's my passion. And you own it. And you tell the kid, how can we make this work? I can do it before, I can do it after. And you deconstruct the meaning of the date. And you go, the date doesn't really matter because you're important to me every day. And you own it. And you end this nonsense of guilt. I think the guilt is our way of pretending that, you know, we should be perfect and martyrs and we should be everywhere at the same time. We cannot. We are going to mess up. Even if you're at home every single day and only baking cookies and focused on your kid, you're going to ruin your kid's psychology. That kid is going to end up in therapy, even if you bake cookies every day. You know what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
guilt is a technique that we have learned to use against ourselves, which is just total bullshit. You know, it's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time because it just keeps you feeling as if, oh, I should be doing it all. If you just eliminate this idea that you can't be perfect, you cannot be in every place at the same time. Something is going to be amazing. Some things are going to get a C grade, and that's okay. That's just the way it is. Then you just embrace your imperfection instead of having guilt that you're not perfect.
Right. Yeah, it's so powerful, actually. I never heard kind of like to put it that way because yeah, we think that we're superwoman, superhuman, and super everything. And I am a perfectionist. I'm unfortunate to admit it. And in my case, I'm always trying to make things better. And I'm very rarely satisfied, which is probably another way of self-abuse, you know, because no matter how good I do, I was like, oh, I could have done this better. I should have done that better. You know, it's almost like I can never be happy because I'm trying to reach to such a perfection level that maybe doesn't exist.
I told you, I said perfectionism is the plague of the modern woman. It is an ideal that doesn't exist, but it is a way that we oppress ourselves. And if somebody else did it to us, if it was a man, we would be able to call it. But we don't realize what we're doing to ourselves is oppression because we call it ambition. Or the feminists call it like passion. No, it's not. It's in self-induced oppression. So again, I said in the beginning, it all depends on the place from which things emerge. If it's emerging out of a true, inner, authentic, organic honesty and alignment, then you will fall into place and you'll be able to look at your kid in the eye and say, I effed up. I'm going to F up or whatever, and not have any problems with it because you're coming from honesty. When you're
Right.
coming from this quest for perfection and that I need to do it all, I need to be amazing at every single thing, that is the false self that culture has told women, and it's a lie. And as long as we're on that hamster wheel, we will have endless guilt and never feel content because we're looking for something on the outside that can never be given. So again, women need to start from the basics and go back and like almost take a hiatus and go on a cleanse, an emotional, psychological detox of their old toxic patterns and really start with a true alignment. Is what I'm doing right now matching my authentic self, or is it my bullshit self that is here to please the phantom 10,000 people out there that I never will even meet, right? The phantom other that I've decided is more important than this present moment for me. And most women are playing to the tune of those phantom people. I often ask people in my workshops, how many people really, really do you think will be there at your deathbed? And they can't even give me more than 5 names that they even want there at their deathbed. So I say to them, your entire life is constructed around these phantom people. But at the end of the day, who's going to die with you? 3 or 4 people, if you're lucky, right? If you're privileged. So who are you chasing? What are you chasing? Give me 5 names right now of the most important people. People will barely give me 5 names. But yet we act as if all the 50,000 on Facebook are important, right? And this is where women are their own self-oppressors.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. I don't know, you guys. I was like, seriously, she's like so amazing. And I'm sure they can read all of that in your book, right? So tell everybody where they can find your book. And you absolutely have to kind of like read it from page to page. I mean, it's like from the first page to the last page. I'm so excited. I'm getting mine, and I cannot wait to read it and absorb it and think it through and put myself in the stage. But tell them where they can find the book.
So it's called A Radical Awakening. I know you may see it opposite, but it's aradicalawakening.com. And I have a 10-day deep dive course that I'm doing with the book. And we're giving away copies of the book with the course because it's a thick book. It's all about deconstructing your past patterns, your sexuality, your relationship with your body, your relationship with relationships, and your relationship with your transcendent self. And I teach people through the book to go on this journey. The book is a journey in itself. And so I'm doing a course with it. So they can go to aradicalawakening.com, either buy the book there or buy the course. And I think it's going to be a revolutionary book to help women end the inner oppression.
I love it. And I kind of like, you heard a rumor, right? But you kind of like did not realize the gem that you're gonna meet at the Most Powerful Women in Network Marketing event. I'm so happy that Dr. Shefali, that with all your busy schedule, I know you're super crazy busy with the launch of your book. So I appreciate it so much that you will be speaking at the women's event. So if you guys were still thinking about joining the event, first of all, it's absolutely free. But now you can see the golden nuggets that you're going to be getting at this event. I mean, it's like you cannot miss this woman. If for any other reason you were still thinking about joining the event or not, like Dr. Shefali alone is going to help you to deconstruct your mind in such a powerful way that you will be able to find that center, that inner strength and inner power that is the most important thing in our lives. Because once you're at peace with you, once you're at peace with who you are and where you're going, what is important to you, then the rest becomes easy. The other piece is going to fall into place. But until you kind of like messed up on this main structure of who you truly are, it is just constantly, you're going to be dissatisfied with different parts of your life. So make sure you register. It's mpw2021.com. It's absolutely free. You cannot afford not to be at this event. I took all the stops because I want to put 150,000, 200,000 people, women specifically, at this event. Why? Because first of all, it will give women that sense of pride and sense of, certainty and confidence that what we are capable of. And when you come out of this conference so empowered, and so, on a new way of realizing who you truly are, we can truly change the world. Dr. Shefali by herself and I am by myself, we cannot do a lot. Yes, we can kind of like move a little bit the needle, but all together, imagine all of us coming together and bringing the heat and, changing the lives of millions. This is absolutely possible and absolutely doable. So, Dr. Shefali, I'm really grateful for you spending some time with me today and bringing all this, just amazing knowledge to everybody watching us today. But also, I'm so excited to meet you in person and so excited that you will be at the women's event. So thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Bye.
Make sure to register. I'll see you at the women's event. Thank you, guys.